300 years ago, education was all about preparing the kids for the technologies that were coming up, conquering nature and building and making factories were the in thing. So today we are seeing the consequences of this extremely science and technology oriented education and lifestyle, because of which now air is unbreathable, water is undrinkable, earth is untouchable, and so on. And we are still putting the same fuel. If you do the same things, you'll get the same results. And therefore I think today education should be about undoing all those things. Today it should be about healing the earth and nature rather than conquering it. What I still, often these days think back and think of is how wise my mother was about how to live in Ladakh. So, particularly where my brothers would say, "Mother, why do you keep all these cows? They hardly give much milk. Why don't you sell them and we'll get a tractor?" So my mother would say, "Well, if you bring a tractor, how will you get manure for the farms? And if you don't get manure for the farms and the farms do not produce well, how will you get the money to buy fuel for your tractor?" This was in the 70s, early 70s. She would say, if you remove the animals, manure will go out, and if you give it artificial fertilizers, which were the beginnings at that time, she would say it would not sustain the life in the soil, so it would become hard and won't support life, and that will then make the agriculture system fail. And I saw that happening exactly in other places who did use those, and she would resist. As an unschooled woman from remote rural village, she had the wisdom to see that these are all interconnected. You can't remove one little piece and think that it will still go on. She saw that back then when this green revolution was at its beginnings, and so-called educated, schooled people like my brothers would laugh at her, and she resisted and kept her animals, and thankfully so. So I feel education generally is to help children prepare for the life of the times they live. Okay? So back when we were hunter-gatherers, education was about hunting, gathering, stamina, power, and so on. So the kids who were very sharp and very good at running after or running before predators were the heroes. Times changed. Today, those who are good at maths and science are the heroes, because we went through a process called industrial revolution, where everything could be done by machines, outsourced to energies other than our own. But today, I think we need to update this system. It's long overdue. We're still doing the same thing that caused all the problems of today. So today we are seeing the consequences of this extremely science and technology oriented education and lifestyle. And therefore I think today education should be about, above all, healing the only home that we have, and of course developing sensitivities and empathy towards all living beings, not just myself or my family or my countrymen, but also our siblings in the wild. The animals and insects are our siblings on the same home planet. The trees, the rivers and mountains are our siblings and relatives. I did not, very luckily so, have any schools in my little village of 5 households, in a remote Ladakhi village. And while people would think that was a very sad situation, you didn't have a school to go, I feel I was very lucky that rather than learning about leaves and roots and shoots from faded pages of textbooks, I was on the farms with neighbors, children, and farmers, seeing seeds go into the earth, roots taking off, and shoots coming out, leaves unfurling without having to bother with LEAF, leaf, LEAVES, leaves, which makes a child lose the very grasp of the magic of nature, in spellings of an alien language and so on. So I was actually very lucky to be able to learn about things from my mother and the village and in my own mother tongue. Mother tongue has a magical effect. When you are good at your mother tongue, you can learn other languages very easily. I see these kids who struggle with English for 15 years of school and college and still tremble when they have to speak few lines in English. Whereas if you're given the confidence of expressing, communicating in your own mother tongue, and generally the confidence of being good, you can acquire languages in matter of months. I see people not only, to not speak Hindi or other regional languages, mother tongue is sad, but worse is when they take pride in their broken mother tongue. I see in Delhi people speaking Hindi as if they were a European. This is the the limit of inferiority complex when you feel small speaking your own language. Teachers didn't understand that I came from a different background. They expected me to learn as the situation was in Urdu or Hindi or English. None of these I spoke at that time. And my lack of language, alien language, was taken as something like retardedness or some stupidity on my part, and because of that they would treat me like an untouchable. So let me tell you, I spent more time on the back bench, on top of the bench, or outside the classroom than in front of the teacher. And I would wonder, if I am weak, how does it help to send me outside the door? Would I learn more than in front of the teacher? Perhaps that was the only way I could be called an outstanding student. I think Bhoomi's courses and the idea and the concept is very beautiful and path-breaking for a time when it is rare to find. At the same time, same rarity may sometimes make one wonder, am I doing the right thing? Or the parents wonder, am I doing the right thing sending my child there? Because it has become very commercial today. What do I get from this? What job? What money? But life is not about money or jobs only. These are means towards a happy life. Happiness can come from a better understanding of the world. It can come from empathy that you develop for other people and nature. So I think enrichment of our lives can happen from all such understandings, deeper understanding of the world and the life and so on. And that kind of enrichment is what I think schools like Bhoomi or ours in Ladakh provide. So I would say we have to be more valuing of such initiatives and make the most and have an enriched, happy life from what we make out of this kind of education. I think the situation is very bad, as explained by many scientists, how if we continue, then there might be a point where we run into the runaway climate change, where it would be very difficult to stop, not to talk of reverse. It is dire, But for those who are doubtful, I would say it's better to be prepared. It's better to give the benefit of doubt and be ready with good actions than to be proven wrong and then you fall and you're nowhere. So even if you're doubtful, taking precautions doesn't hurt. And if you are clear, then all the better that we take precautions and change our ways. People seem to think of solving the problem with more of the same. Yeah? So they think of replacing, for example, fossil fuel cars with electric cars, and that alone is enough. I think we have to change our overall approach to life. I think we should derive happiness from simpler lives, not just replacing everything with an alternative solar powered thing. To learn to control your desires is a better and easier way to deal with it. I very much am inspired by what Buddha said in this. Yeah? He said that for a human being, it's a greater achievement to conquer a single desire than to fulfill 1,000. So, rather than fulfilling 1,000 desires, if not with fossil fuel, I'll with solar energy. Desires are still desires. You're still chasing after desires. How about uprooting some of those desires, and then you don't need your fossil fuel, you don't even need your solar panels. You can live happily with conquering desires. So poor is not someone who doesn't have money. Poor is someone who keeps wanting more and more. So if you do not need more, you're rich at no money. It's good to join campaigns, movements, but also we need to change personally. And if we take care of ourselves, then the world takes care of itself. If each individual takes care of. So we're saying that we have been using crowdfunding a lot, and I think it's a beautiful way of getting everybody engaged in an issue. More than the money, which is the output of a crowdfunding campaign, I'm more impressed with the byproduct more than the product, which is engagement, awareness, involvement, and so on. You pledge to say go vegetarian. So anyone who goes vegetarian or half vegetarian makes a huge contribution. So you press a tab and say, I do this, and it will say you're making a contribution worth $10,000. Or you could say, I'll never use escalators and lifts. I'll use the steps. Stay fit and keep the planet fit. And the site will say, if you do that for the whole year, that will be $5,000 worth of contribution. You say, I'll plant 10,000 trees or 100 trees. It will say, you're making so much contribution. Likewise, people around the world will go on this site and pledge and then keep up to those pledges. Yeah? And this will run into trillions of dollars of contribution. Now, these will be easy because there is no real exchange of money, so no issues of credibility and so on, yet it will be real. The overall effect on the planet will be that many $1 trillion of help to the sustenance of the planet. So a campaign like this that encourages people towards action, yet at the same time only individual action is not good enough, so it will also have how will you engage with community action. Join the eco club in your locality or join the Fridays for Future. Yeah. And that could be a huge contribution of say $20,000. So we value it and put it, and thereby you feel you have made so much contribution to the planet, and you celebrate with others who do the same. As New Year's are for resolutions, we want to put a more systematic organizing of resolutions from around the world. And now this is mainly because we in Ladakh, when we make artificial glaciers or solar heated houses, We feel very good, but very soon we think that us doing this in some remote corner of the mountains doesn't really solve the problem. Unless people at large in these big cities change their behavior, climate change will continue and we'll be just making glaciers and solar houses. And so this is to say to the world that if you please live simply in the cities, we in the mountains may simply live. And that's the idea of this I live simply movement. A child learns to walk only after failing 1,000 times and falling front, falling right. So we take it as a part of it. We have on an average maybe 7 or 8 failures for every success. Yeah? So there have been many, and we don't think of them as something negative. They are the stepping stones on which you then move forward and learn. Failures or mistakes are a problem when you make them twice. When they are because of your carelessness or your laziness, then it is a problem. Failure because of attempting is the biggest thing you can salute. Because if you don't attempt, you will never fail. In Urdu, there is a beautiful couplet which says, "Girte hain sheh sawar maidane-e-jang mein." Sheh sawar is a knight on horse. But only those who are knights on horse fall in the battlefield. Wo tifl kya gire jo gutnon ke bal chale. A little kid, a baby who is a toddler will never fall. Fall will those who attempt something.